بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. قال المصنف رحمه الله: ويكره في الصلاة التفاته ورفع بصره إلى السماء وإقعاؤه وافتراشه ذراعيه ساجدا وعبثه وتخصره وتروحه وترقعة أصابعه وتشبيكها وأن يكون حاقنا أو بحضرة طعام يشتهيه وتكرار الفاتحة لا جمع سور في فرض كنفل.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam ala rasulillah. Today is a very important bab, and these are the makruhat of salah. Those things that are makruh in salah. These are the disliked actions in salah. Why is it important? Because some things invalidate your salah, and most people, they know, inshallah, at least tullab ilm, they know the things that invalidate the salah. So they will usually, inshallah, stay away from those. But there are things where there is karaha, they are disliked. And people take them very lightly today. People take them very lightly. And they could, in certain circumstances, and we'll discuss them today, inshallah, invalidate your salah. And even if they do not invalidate your salah, they will take away from the reward of your salah. They will take away from the khushu', from your concentration and your awareness and your standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the type of bab that should separate tullab ilm from awam. Awam may Allah protect us and save us as an ummah, may continue to do things, and then because there is either they're leaving out something mustahab or they're doing something makruh, people are sometimes soft to correct them on these issues. But the tullab ilm, those that are studying mutun and studying knowledge, then they shouldn't leave the things that are mustahab. They should learn those things that are from the sunan and stick to them. And they should learn what is makruh, what are the things, even those things khalif al-adab, against the etiquettes, and leave those off, because you want your knowledge to be improving your salah. Tayyib. So we'll begin, and in reality there are 11 things listed as being makruh. I am going to mention 13. I'm going to add 2 more because I'm using here Rawdat al Murbi', al-Biyuti's sharh of Zād al Mustaqni', and he mentioned a couple of additional things. I'm going to mention adillah, as inshallah we always try to do, and I will mention some khilaf of ulama, but I will try to keep it concise. There is a lot of discussion on some of these masail here, where entire works have been written. Literally, an entire book has been written. And I actually, in one of these masail, I started a risala myself, haven't finished it, but so I'm going to try to keep it concise. طيب. From the first things that the muallif mentions here that are the makruh fi salah, attifat. Attifat to turn. طيب. Now here there is some tafsil needed, and this is why I warn tullab ilm from picking up mutun without shuyukh. There are some books you can read on your own, no problem. Pick up Riyadh al-Salihin, read it all day long. Beautiful book, no problem in it, right? Mutun, you can get it if you like, but don't think you understand it unless you study it with a sheikh. Because one of the brothers, when we were studying this, and I kind of remember our sheikh, may Allah have protect him, Sheikh Sadiq, he used to use 2 shuruh in Zād. One of them being Rawdat al Murbi', which I'm using here as well. And one of them being Zād al Mustaqni', Sharh al Mumti' ala Zād al Mustaqni', the Sharh of Shaykh the Sharh al Mumti' is very big, it's 15 volumes. So he would only bring some above from it, and then he would depend on this. And usually we would get together on 1 day a week. The rest of the days I was just me and him. 1 day a week we would have other tullab that would come. And those tullab on a Saturday, because they were off, they were the local Emiratis. Usually we would get together early and we would start discussing notes. And it's a good thing. We would, because I would have more durus than them. So I would discuss kind of what I caught up on. They would kind of revise what they have done. And many of them had already studied the matan with the shaykh. They were doing it a second and a third time. So alhamdulillah, they would mention this. One of them, he mentioned here about this mas'ala. And I had covered it as well. So this was something strange. So he said, yeah, if you turn, it's makruh. So I told him, yeah, but only if you turn your face, right? Because if you turn your body, it would be from ibtal al-salah, and it would make the salah batila. And he said, no, look, it's right here in the matan. And alhamdulillah, when the shaykh said, he explained it as well. So this is something I remember from this, and this is from 2004, I think, or something like that. So I mean, this time it has stuck with me. Be careful not to think that this is just one thing. There are three aspects here. One is to turn the ras, the head. طيب. One is to turn the sight, al-basar, يعني just to look. And one is to turn جميع البدنه, your whole body. يعني how do you know that? بقدميه, from the feet. So these are three types of turning. The first two are makruh. There's karaha. The third would make your salah batila. Because, why? Because you left istiqbal al-qibla. And that's a shart min shurut al-salah. طيب. And this is dun al-khilaf. يعني there is no khilaf of madahib on this issue. So if you are standing in salah and you look, you turn to this way, you turn that way, you turn your head. This is makruh. This is from the karaha. This is disliked. Doesn't mean it's okay. Just want to make sure people understand the istalahat here. Mustahab does not mean you don't have to do it. And makruh does not mean go for it. Right? There's something hated, detested, disliked. Don't do it. Right? But if you did turn your head slightly, it does not invalidate your salah. Tayyib. Looking up in salah, that's what we're going to discuss later. This is about looking to the side. So you're facing the front, you're fine, but you look this way. Right? This is makruh. Don't do it. There's karaha. That's disliked. This is something that's going to detract from your salah. But if you turn your body, your chest, your feet away from the qibla, now your salah is batila. You don't have to make taslim. You invalidated your salah. Why? You invalidated a shart from salah. Why don't you have to make taslim? Because shurut, when they're invalidated, they invalidate your salah automatically. You don't need to say salaam alaikum anymore. Right? And you have to begin that salah again. What is the dalil for that? The dalil for that is, for example, if somebody lost their wudu in salah. Right? It's from the shurut of salah to have tahara. So this is the first thing that is يعني something that is makruh in salah. Adilla for this are many. Like the hadith in al-Bukhari that is mentioned about looking side to side. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was asked about this. He said, this is shaitan taking away min salat al-abd. This is from Sahih al-Bukhari. Where Rasulullah was asked about this, he said, this is shaitan taking away from the salat of the abd. Tayyib. Why don't we take this to be something that makes a salah batila? Because here, if it was, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would have explained, because the haqq on the Nabi alayhi salatu is to explain when something has to be repeated. Like the one who did not make wudu correctly, Rasulullah told him, go make salah again. Here Rasulullah didn't say they have to make the salah again, but he said it takes away from the salah. So this is from the makruhat. But again, just because it doesn't make your salah batil doesn't okay. Do you want your salah to be subtracted? Do you want shaitan taking away from your thawab and your reward in your salah? La. So here, this is, and there are many adillah for this. And I went to the books of other madahib like An-Nawawi in his Majmu' and Ibn Abdul Barr for the Malikiyya and Ibn Abidin for the Hanafiya, and I found across the board, in generally, they all mention this as well. And Zād al Mustaqni here is a book of the Hanabila, so this is there. Tayyib. Now, in Rawt al-Murbi', it does mention that unless there is khawf, tayyib, meaning if you are standing and making salah, and يعني it's a matter of battle, for example, you're not making salat al-khawf, that's a whole different salah, and you're afraid there is an enemy, for you to look in that case, there is jawaz. And there are adillah from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the amal of Sahaba radiyallahu anhum. In our time, Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen rahmatullah alayh in Sharh al-Mumti', he also explains, for example, if a woman is praying and she's afraid for her child and she looks, she turns her basar or her ras, then her salah is fine. And this is not makruh in this case because of the haja. And then we go back to the adillah. In Ibn Abi Shayba and Imam al-Bayhaqi have entire abwab in their books to show jawaz here. If you are praying outside and you hear a car coming and you look, that's fine. Tayyib. Another case scenario, you are praying and you hear a car coming and you turn your whole body. Tayyib. What about this situation? Your salah is batala. Should you? Sure, if you have to. Doesn't mean a car is coming, you're like, no, not gonna look, you get hit. La. The Sharia has maqasid, and from the maqasid of Sharia is to protect your life. So if you have to, break the salah. But in that case, you have to repeat the salah. A woman is praying, and a child's about to go into the fireplace and jump in, Now, if she looks, because the child, there's a safety issue, her salah is fine. It's not even makruh, here her salah is fine. If she grabs the child while not leaving facing the qiblah, her salah is fine. If she's afraid the child will harm itself, boy, girl, whatever, right? And she jumps to save the child, she leaves the direction of the qiblah, her salah is batala, but she should do it. But she still should do it, or he, for the brothers as well, to protect the life of the child. But you just need to understand what is the hukm in which situation. طيب رفع يعني to raise بصره إلى السماء. رفع بصره يعني to raise the sight toward the sama. Now there are a few different case scenarios we're going to discuss here. One is when you are looking side to side. This is what we discussed earlier. The second now is when you are going to رفع بصره, to look up to the sama, up straight. This is the second from the makruhat now. This is separate. Why? What's the difference? One is when you are just fidgeting side to side. One is when you're looking up. This is makruh in the salah. Some of the a'imma even took this to be from the things that make the salah batila. But that's not mu'tamadan in any of the four madahib. So I'm not going to go into those opinions there. But according to all of the madahib, you will find that this is from the makruhat of salah. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Rawah al-Bukhari, he warned against this. And there are many rawayat for this. But one of them even saying that is the person not afraid that Allah will take their sight away. Based on that, some of the Zahiriyah, they took it to be from the things that invalidate your salah. But the madhahib al-arba' took this to be karaha, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not establish the repeating of the salah here. Tayyib. So now we have how many? Two. The third being to close one's eyes. Tayyib. If you close the eyes in salah, this is from the things that are makruh. In Rawat al-Murbi' al-Biyuti, he says لأنه فعل اليهود, because there is the action of the Yahud. Looking in the bigger books like the Shuruh of al-Iqna', Kashf al-Qina', and in the Shuruh al-Bayuti, in the bigger books, they have given some adillah other than this, which is that if you look at the fi'l of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, throughout the salah, he mentioned where to look. The place of sujood, the finger in tashahud and so on. And never did it mention from the fi'l of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam that he closed the eyes. Ibn al-Qayyim in Zād al also discusses this mas'ala in great detail. But then he explained something which I think is very important, that there are times where it can be permissible, because there is no sarih mana' here. There is no evident dalil that says you cannot. So Ibn al-Qayyim says that if somebody needs to close their eyes just to regain their khushu', they can. There is jawaz here. It would not be makruh in that case. Okay? Meaning, a husband is at home and his wife, mashallah, as she should, dresses up very nice for him, and she is crossing, and he is afraid that his sight will go towards her. Or the wife is praying and the husband in that case, or in such scenarios, many of us that work outside or go to school and universities, sometimes you're making salah and somebody dressed very inappropriately is going to cross by you, right? And you're afraid that even looking in your place where you should be looking, it's going to scratch your attention and mess with your khushu'. In those situations, if you temporarily close the eyes, then this is jawaz. There is permissible action here, as Ibn al-Qayyim, if you want to read further, read his discussion in Zād al But regularly, to close the eyes in salah is not permissible. Tayyib. Some people say, if I close the eyes, I have greater khushu' regularly. Like not in a particular incident. Regularly, if I just start the salah and I close my eyes and I think about Jannah and Jahannam, this is better. So why not? We say because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not show us that. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as you can read Ibn Rajab in his book on khushu' fi salah, he mentions the adillah that regularly Rasulullah said to look in the place of sujood. If it was better to close the eye, Rasulullah would have shown it to us. So regularly you should not close the eyes, rather look at the places where Rasulullah instructed. But occasionally if you need to, due to some necessity, then there is jawaz. But regularly if you do it, this would be makruh. طيب. Al-Iqā' is something where I think many of our طلاب ilm even don't really understand this issue. And this is what I started a risala on once. And I'm going to show you first a couple of case scenarios of how it would be done. طيب. So now visualize just what I'm doing, and I'll explain it when I get back up. طيب. There are two evident methods, and Imam Ahmad, for example, he explained both of them, and Ibn Hajar and others have explained them as well. One of them, Iqā', this is what we call sitting like a dog. One of them is that your feet are spread and your body is resting on the ground. You see my feet? All right. Do you see this? My feet, so my heels are up, my toes are down. It can be done with the toes facing the qiblah or the toes put down like this. This is one way. And the ulama, especially, and we'll discuss this inshallah, they explain these different ways. طيب. So there is one way which can be done in two. So we're going to say 1A and 1B, I guess, 1 alif, 1 ba, which is to sit like this. The body is touching the ground. Your feet are spread out. Your heels are up. Toes are facing the qibla. Or 1B or 1 ba, your toes are face down. But again, the sudur qadmay, yani the top of the ball of the foot is down and the heel is up. طيب. The second way, which is the more common way, is to sit like this. طيب. Your feet are with the heels up and your body is resting on the heels. And the toes are facing the qibla. So this is the second way. Okay? Everybody clear? طيب. This is Iqā'. طيب. That was painful. I don't usually sit like that. Is this out?
Yes.
Okay. طيب. Now, what is the hukm on it? Like I said, there is a lot of tafsil. I'm going to try to summarize, but it's very important because I see a lot of brothers doing this. The Jamhur al-Ulama, including the Jamhur of the Shawafi', even though there is some khilaf even within madhahib, yani there is sometimes khilaf within a madhab. But al-Nawawi, for example, giving the mu'tamid of the Shawafi', and Ibn Abidin giving the mu'tamid of the Hanafiya, and Ibn Abdul Barr giving some of the opinions that could be considered mu'tamid in the Malikiyah, even though there is Al-Baji and others have given a different opinion as well. And the mu'tamid of the Hanabila is that all of that is makruh. There is karaha in this 1AB and 2. Tayyib. There is an opinion in the Malikiyah, and this was the opinion of Shaykhuna Albani and some of the Zahiriyah and some of the A'imma within the Hanabila and Shawafi as well, that there is jawaz for all of that. Okay? And then there is another opinion, which is the first method that I did, 1A and B, this is what is makruh. And the second method, which was number 2, this is sunnah, it's jaiz. طيب. Why? Why the interesting khilaf? First thing, many of you are طلاب علم, so mashallah you will want to research more. يعني if you look in al-Mughni or al-Muqni' or al-Furu', you will find a lot of details about the position and so on. طيب. Who wrote al-Mughni? Ibn Qudama. Who wrote al-Muqni'? Ibn Qudama. Who wrote al-Furu'? Huh? Ibn Muflih. Good job, man. I was expecting you guys not to get that, but impressive. طيب. The issue gets to be that there are ahadith that clearly forbid al-Iqā'. طيب. Two of the more famous ones, one is that's mentioned in the Musnad Imam Ahmad and the other in the Sunan of Ibn Majah. In the Musnad, it is mentioned from Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, and Ibn Majah has it from Anas ibn Malik. Both of them are da'if. Both of them are weak. And if you go to most of the books of the different madahib, they will depend on these two. The one from Ibn Majah, from Anas ibn Malik, from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, al-Bisuri, he said, Isnadahu da'if. Ibn Hajar said in al-Takhlis that Ala ibn Zayd, who is the Rawi here, he is Matruk. Ibn Ma'in and others, they all graded to be da'if. Imam al-Nawawi as well, he considered it to be da'if. Tayyib. The riwayah from the Muslim Imam Ahmad from Abu Hurairah, again it is also da'if, as Ibn Hajar and al-Nawawi has mentioned. I found another riwayah from Samura radiallahu anhu in the Musnad, but this is also da'if. Al-Nawawi and Ibn Hajar both said that all of these ahadith on man'a that are mentioned with those alfaz are kullaha yani da'ifa. They're all weak. And then it gets complicated because there's the riwayah from Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma in the Sahih of Imam Muslim. So obviously there is no doubt to its authenticity, where he discussed it and he said, أن الإكناع على قدمين سنة. So now what gets to be is Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, the great Sahabi in Sahih Muslim, is saying that this is sunnah. But as I said, Jamhur al-Ulama did not take it to be sunnah. So why not? Why is it that you were taking, and the people who are not deep in fiqh, unfortunately we have this disease in our ummah nowadays where they'll pick up a hadith and khalas, they don't want to go deeper. So when they read this, you guys and all the madahib and all you guys are following da'if ahadith and this hadith in Sahih Muslim, what's wrong with you guys? Calm down. Look into an issue. When you find that many ulama following an opinion, I'm not saying that by itself is a dalil, but I'm saying you need to look further than just pulling a hadith. There is a hadith from Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, Abdullah ibn Umar, also from the great Sahaba, where he did sit this way. Al-Tabi'i, and this as An-Nabawi said the hadith al-Sahih in Al-Majmu', Al-Tabi'i copied him. He saw Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu sitting like this in Ik'a, and he sat the same way. Abdullah ibn Umar told him, why did you do this? He said, because I saw you doing it. Abdullah ibn Umar said, I was doing it because of old age, and because I have pain in my feet, but this is not the sunnah. Now, the issue becomes a little clearer from those, mashallah, guys who read one hadith and think they know everything, right? Now we see Abdullah ibn Umar saying something, but the zahir of it is khalif to Abdullah ibn Abbas, both great Sahaba. Tayyib. Then there is a hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha that is also in Sahih Muslim, where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he made nahi an uqbat al-shaytan, on sitting in the sitting position of shaitan. What is that? Imam al-Nabawi in his Sharh Sahih Muslim said al-Ik'a. So now, for those brothers who just went to one website, it gets a little more complicated. Now you have a Sahih Rawayah from Sahih Muslim from Aisha radiyallahu anha also showing nahi on it. Tayyib. If we continue, there are other adilla mawqufan that you can take as well. But what is important? Al-Khattabi, the great scholar of hadith, he said, looking at these, the riwayah from Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma was to show that this was sunnah, but it does not show that it is sunnah mustaqillah. So he said this is mansukh. Khattabi said this is mansukh. That Ibn Abbas was only showing the people that this was from the sunnah. Why? And I'm not convinced of this personally, that this is mansukh, but I will explain why. Why did he take that? He said because when we look at all the ظاهر مرفوع hadith, what does that mean? There is raf'a, and a hadith that is from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where somebody says رأيت Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam or سمعت Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then there is a way to make raf'a of a hadith that is not apparently raf'a, which is the Ibn Abbas, because he said min as-sunnah. He didn't say قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم or رأيت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم or سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. But when he said min as-sunnah, then that would assume that this is raf'a. But he said if you look at all the other ahadith that the Sahaba watched Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, either iftarash or tawarruk, right? None of them mention ik'a. So he took that to say the hadith of Ibn Abbas in Sahih Muslim, there's no da'af in it, but he said this is mansukh. And many of the a'imma and ulama, they took this opinion as well with him. But there is another opinion that Ibn Qudama and others have mentioned, which is that there is two types of ik'a. The one that is makruh is the first A and B, one A and B that I showed, and the one that is sunnah is number 2. And this is also a strong opinion. But what I prefer myself is the opinion of Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, as he mentioned Sharh al-Mumti'. He says that the qawl of Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma was just to show that this had happened. But because we cannot date the qawl, we cannot date it to be later, and we cannot date it to be earlier, we can say that no doubt the Rasulullah had practiced it. But if you see the majmu' of ahadith on this mas'ala, all of the ones where they were bi'ain, either seen or heard or taught by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all of them show khalif to it. So if occasionally somebody did it, there could be jawaz for it, or if they had a need for it, al-haja, somebody like Ibn Umar, he did it out of haja. And Ibn Abbas could have been explaining that as well, but rather what we see is mustaqil, the regular way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is not to do it. And if we look at the hadith of Aisha radiyallahu anha in Sahih Muslim, and you look at the riwayah from Ibn Umar radiyallahu anhuma, and you then support that with the weaker narration that we mentioned earlier, these are all sahih, no doubt to these narrations, then what is evident that this is makruh? There is karaha. Whether it's through being nasikh and mansukh, or being through shadh, odd practice occasionally, or through something that is done bil haja, it should not be regularly done. Some of the brothers, mashallah, they were establishing, we're reviving sunnah without looking deeper into the mas'ala. Look into if you're reviving sunnah, what about the hadith of Aisha radiyallahu anha in Sahih Muslim as well? What about the riwayah from Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu anhu? What about all the ahadith where the action is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is shown, right? So what is correct, and again I've summarized this, even if you think that I haven't, is that it is makruh in all those situations. 1A, B, and 2. Right? Illa bil haja, except if you have a necessity. Maybe you have a cramp in your foot, maybe your foot is hurt, maybe you have a weight issue, maybe you have some other back issues, maybe you're getting older, whatever else. If you have a haja, khalas, then there is no karaha, then there is jawaz. But without haja, it's makruh. Tayyib, that was number 3. Number 4, iftarash dira'i sajidan, to put the forearms on the ground while in sujood. And there is sarih dalil. The riwayah from Imam Ahmad is there as well, that Imam al-Hakim and al-Dhahabi and Shaykh al-Albani and others graded to be sahih. But there are other supporting narrations that are also in Bukhari and Muslim, like the hadith of Anas ibn Malik that is muttafaqun alayh, and so on. And I didn't find khilaf. The khilaf I found is in the Hanafiya. We found that they separated between the salah of men and women. But the adillah here show that this is a hukam that was for men and women. And the adillah for showing khilaf on men and women is none of it's marfu'an from a Nabi alayhi salam or mawqufan from Sahaba, except there is da'af in it. But the maqtu' hadith from a tabi'in, even those have da'af in them. So, sarihan, this is for men and women that you should not put your elbows and your forearms on the ground in sujood. One of the great Hanafi scholars, if you are interested, his name is Abul Izz al-Hanafi, the one who wrote the famous sharh of Tahawiyah. He has a book, Al-Tanbih ala Mushkilat al-Hidayah. If you don't have it and you're interested in Hanafi fiqh, you really should get it. And in it he discusses this as well, and he says that even according to him as a Hanafi, that the opinion is that the forearms should be raised. Why? Because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam forbid this clearly for men and women. The general nahi is for both, unless you can find a dalil specific. Number 5, to fidget. عبث, to move around. Now here we have first, there are 2 types here again. Fidgeting. Fidgeting in salah can be to the level where it makes your salah batila, or it can be to the level that it makruha. Tayyib, some of the madhahib, they said like more than 2 actions or 3 actions, and I read through different opinions and different books. But those are all ijtihadan, like there's no adillah to put a limit. And it's very, it's concerning for me when people put limits without clear adillah, right? So, Rasulullah, for example, he opened the door and he moved the door in salah. Aisha radhiyallahu anha did as well. How many actions does that take, and so on and so on. So, what is clear that if you fidget to the level that somebody looking at you would see you as outside of salah, meaning you're standing out in salah and you're like, I see, and you think this is funny, but I've seen it, right? In that case, your salah will be batila. And how will we judge that? Bil-urf wal-adat. We'll have to look at the situation. We cannot just tell you 5 and 6 and 3, right? But if you walk in and somebody's like, so, right? Then this is not salah. You are now, salah is batil. But if somebody, and he fidgets like this in salah, it's makruh. It's not okay. Don't do it. Don't scratch yourself. Don't move yourself. Don't touch your nose. This is makruh. There's karaha. Don't do this in salah. But we cannot say that salah is, and we cannot tell them repeat your salah. Unless they do it so much that the surah to salah, the appearance of the salah is taken away. But if you do it less than that, and what is the dalil for that? In the books, they mention a hadith marfu'an from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. لو خشع قلبه هذا, if the heart had khushu', then the jawarih, the body parts would have followed in it. But marfu'an, this is mawdu'. This is a fabrication. I looked at all of the asanid and I rechecked them for this dars, and none of them can be shown marfu'an, from Rasulullah sallam with this wording. Al-Hakim al-Tirmidhi, some of the brothers said al-Tirmidhi, but Tirmidhi, Abu Isa al-Tirmidhi is not the same as Al-Hakim al-Tirmidhi. He has this from Abu Huraira radiyallahu anhu, mawqufan. This is not Sunan al-Tirmidhi. Right? But that is also da'if. It's very weak. Multiple points of da'af in it. But what we find in the Musannaf ibn Abi Shayba from Sa'id ibn Musayyib, this is maqtu', from a tabi'i, this is his statement. But, no doubt it is supported by many other adillah to show that to fidget in salah is makruh. And all of the madahib, including the Zahiriyya and other 4 madahib, when I went through their books, they have put this as being makruh. So no doubt we find this to be where there is karaha here. That was number 5. Right? 5. You guys keeping track? Good notes? Good. Number 6. Tayyib. There is a difference between sadal and takhassar. Tayyib. One is, I'm going to show, sadal, to put the hands down. One is takhassar or takhassur, which is to put your hands on your hips. To put your hands on your hips, there is a sarih dalil that is muttafaqun alayh that this is makruh. There is nahi on it. There is nahi. Ulama did not take it to be tahriman, but they took it to be karahatan across the board. So to put your hands on your hips, there is clear karaha on this. There is sarih dalil muttafaqun alayh. There is a hadith in the Sunan of Abu Dawud about sadal. Naha an-Nabi ﷺ and sadal. But there is da'af in that hadith. And many ai*imma took sadal here to mean to hang a cloth on the neck. Some took it to be isbal and so on. Some took it to be, as one of the Hanafi ulama that I saw, is to be putting the hand. But khalas, that is a separate issue. Here, the issue is to put the hands on the hips in salah is makruh. This is the 6th. Tayyib, to pop your knuckles or to crack your knuckles. To crack your knuckles, I'm doing it to show you, right? But this is something that you should not do. There is karaha. Now, there are 3 methods. Now, in the matan is not there, but in Rawt al-Murbi', al-Buyuti mentions one more, and I'm adding one more from the Sharh of al-Iqna'. So, one of them is to do it while walking to salah. And there is hadith and mana on this. So, this is one. The other is when you're waiting for salah, and the ulama included when you're sitting in the khutbah of Jum'ah. To be popping your fingers. And the last being in salah. And we'll talk about interlocking fingers in the same three scenarios coming up as well. Tayyib. Regarding interlocking finger, there is sarih dalil. For popping, this is taken istidlalan from it regarding walking to salah. I didn't see a sarih dalil for cracking the fingers having to do with walking for salah. But in salah, ulama across the board took this to be a form of fidgeting. Right? There is no hadith for this. Istidlalan from interlocking, they took it as well. But we can say across the board that ulama considered it to be makruh to pop the fingers in salah or when you're sitting for the khutbah. This they did tashbihan for interlocking. But in salah, no doubt it's makruh. Tayyib, for popping the fingers while coming for salah or while waiting for salah, this here is really, I would say more adab than based on adillah. Tayyib. But while you're in salah, to pop your ankles or your toes or whatever, this is something where we see it to be khalif to the adab of salah and from fidgeting, so it should be makruh. Tayyib. Next issue here is to, and this is not in the matan of Zād, but in the sharh of al-Biyuti, Rawt al-Murbi', which is to switch weight between feet. Here, al-Biyuti says this can be considered mustahab even if it's a long salah. To do it unnecessarily, when you're standing in salah and you're kind of switching on one side and the other side, to do it unnecessarily would be makruh. There would be karaha. But to do it out of necessity, meaning your foot is falling numb, and mashallah praying behind Shaykh Abdul Qadir in his qunut, right? Then it can even be considered mustahab, right? So you don't fall in salah and so on. But to do it unnecessarily would be makruh. The other that is not mentioned in Zād, but it is in the sharh, is to rock back and forth in salah. And al-Biyuti says that this is makruh because this is from the fi'l of al-Yahud. We see some of our brothers that are memorizing Quran, they also do this. Right? This is not in this mas'ala, but just as a side note. If it is out of necessity, meaning you're sitting for mashallah 6-8 hours memorizing Quran and your blood flow is messed up, then there is nothing wrong with it. But if it becomes a habit, it has some brothers, anytime they pick up the mushaf, they start rocking. Then this would be either makruh or tahreeman. Why? Because it becomes tashbih of the Yahud. If you see the Yahud, they do this. So if it's done out of necessity, you shouldn't condemn all those young children in madaris because they're sitting so long, they need to move for their blood to flow, then there is no problem. But if it's taken as if it's a part of the recitation of Quran, as it has become the habit of some people, then there would be either kirah or tahrim. I've read both from different ulama. Tayyib. So that would be 7, 8, and 9. Tayyib. Everybody good on that? Tayyib. Next will be 10, even though in the matan it is the 8th, because I added 2 additional, right? Which is the related issue of interlacing or interlocking your fingers. Here you have the hadith in Ibn Majah from Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu. Imam al-Tirmidhi has taken it. Now, that hadith in al-Tirmidhi, there is some weakness in it. But there is an additional hadith that they mention which are authentic that raise it to be sahih li ghayrihi as well. Here which has to do with coming for salah and waiting for salah. Both of them have been mentioned. So if while you're coming for salah and when you're waiting for salah, it's been forbidden to interlock the fingers, then obviously in salah you should not interlock the fingers. To fold your hand fine, but not to interlock. All 3 of them. Now, al-Biyuti mentioned that if you do it while walking for salah, this is the lightest of the karaha. While you're waiting for salah, and he makes tashbih as he mentioned earlier for Jummah salah as well, this is more serious. And there is a hadith, as we mentioned, about this particularly. And he said in salah would be the worst. Because the hadith about not doing it while waiting or walking for salah, he said because this is like salah. So obviously in salah it would be taken the most seriously. And this would be makruh as well. Tayyib, number 11, 9 in the matan, would be if there is al-haja for going to the bathroom. And if you have haja to go to the bathroom. And then the next one, which is related, number 10 in the matan and 12 in our tartib, is if food is served. The hadith actually mentions the la salah bi hadrat ta'am, and based on this, the imam ulama, they said that we do not take this to be tahriman, meaning not the salah is batila. Why? Because there are a hadith to show qarina, where Sahaba, they had food but they made the salah due to the timing. Okay? Because some people say, oh, la salah meaning khalas, your salah is batila. La. And you have to look at the qarina. Okay? So, Ibn Abi Shayba and Al-Bayhaqi have abab that show the qarina. So, if either you have to go to the restroom or food is served, then here we say it's makruh to stand up for salah, because your qalb, your heart will not be in the salah. Your khushu will not be there. It'll just be your body, you'll be thinking about food, or I really got to go to the bathroom. Tayyib, meaning somebody is working all day and they're fasting all day, mashallah, and they're coming home and the iqamah is going on and they haven't eaten, and they know if they stand for salah, then their salah will not be at the khushu, then we say khalas, go eat, take care of your food, even if you miss salah in jama'ah. Right? Even if you pray salah a little bit later. But a different case scenario is when salah is about to become outside its time. When your salah is going to be qada. Here, if you have to eat something quick and make your salah, then make your salah. Everything should be taken in its proper consideration and place. Tayyib. The last that we will mention here is takrarul Fatiha. Is to repeat al-Fatiha. Here, if you recite al-Fatiha, from the sunnah in the certain rak'at, and we've discussed this already, is to add a surah afterwards. If you leave it out, your salah is fine, but you miss something that's mustahab. But if instead of adding a second surah, you repeat al-Fatiha, this is makruh. Now here, a question